The Parsha of Naso seems, on the face of it, to be a heterogeneous collection of utterly unrelated items, a jumble of ideas. First, there's the account of the Mishpachot Haleviim, the Levitical families of Gershon and Merari, and their tasks in carrying parts of the tabernacle when the Israelites journeyed. Then, after two brief laws about removing unclean people from the camp and about restitution, there comes the strange ordeal of the sotah, the woman suspected by her husband of adultery. Next comes the law of the Nazir, the person who voluntarily and usually for a fixed period took on himself special holiness restrictions, among them the renunciation of wine and grape products, of haircuts, and of defilement by contact with a dead body. This is followed again, seemingly with no connection, by one of the oldest prayers in the world still in continuous use, the Birkat Kohanim, the priestly blessings. And then with inexplicable repetitiousness comes the account of the gifts brought by the princes of each tribe at the dedication of the tabernacle, a series of long paragraphs repeated no less than 12 times, since each prince brought an identical offering. Why does the Torah spend so much time describing an event that could have been stated far more briefly by listing the princes and then simply telling us generically that each brought a silver dish, a silver basin, and so on? But the question that overshadows all the others is, what is the logic of this apparently disconnected series of laws and events? The answer, I think, lies in the very last word of the priestly blessing, shalom, peace. In a long analysis, the 15th century Spanish commentator Rabbi Yitzchak Arama explains that shalom does not simply mean the absence of conflict or strife or war. It means shlemut, completeness, perfection, the harmonious working of a complex system. It means integrated diversity, a state in which everything is in its proper place and everything is at one with the physical and ethical laws governing the universe. This is what Arama says. Peace is the thread of grace issuing from him, may be exalted, stringing together all beings, supernal, intermediate, and lower. It underlies and sustains the reality and the unique existence of each. Similarly, Isaac Abarbanel says, this is why God is called peace, because it is he who binds the world together and orders all things according to their particular character and posture. For when things are in their proper order, peace will reign. This is a concept of peace that is heavily dependent on the vision at the beginning of Bereshit 1, in which God brings order out of tohu vavohu, out of chaos, creating a world in which each object, each life form has its proper place. Peace exists where each element in this complex system we call the universe, each is valued as a vital part of the system as a whole, and where there is no discord between them. The various provisions of Parshas Naso are all about bringing shalom in this sense. The most obvious case is that of the sotah, the woman suspected by her husband of adultery. In other words, their relationship has broken down. There's no peace between them. What struck the sages most forcefully about the ritual of the sotah is that it involved obliterating the name of God, something that in any other circumstance would be completely forbidden. The officiating priest recited a curse. He then wrote it on a parchment scroll, and he then dissolved the writing in the specially prepared water. The sages inferred from this that God was willing to renounce his own honor, allow his name to be effaced, to bring shalom between husband and wife by clearing an innocent woman from suspicion. Though the ordeal was eventually abolished by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai after the destruction of the Second Temple, the law stayed as a reminder as to how important Shalom Bayit, domestic peace, is in the Jewish scale of values. The passage relating to the Levitical families of Gershon and Merari signals that in order to make peace, they were each given a role of honor in transporting items of the tabernacle during the people's journeys through the wilderness. Evidently, these two families were satisfied with this honor, unlike the family of Kahat, mentioned at the end of last week's parasha, one of whose number, Korach, eventually instigated a rebellion against Moses and Aaron. But the Gershonites and the Merarim were satisfied with the honor that was given them. Likewise, the long account of the offerings of the princes of the 12 tribes is a dramatic way of indicating that each was considered important enough to merit his and his tribe's own passage in the Torah. People will do very destructive things if they feel left out, slighted, not given their due role and honor and recognition. And again, the case of and his allies is proof of this. So by giving each of these two Levitical families and the 12 princes of the tribes their share of honor and attention, their space in the limelight, the Torah is telling us how important it is to preserve the harmony of the nation, Shalom HaMedina, by honoring all. The case of the Nazir is in some ways the most interesting. You see, there's an internal tension within Judaism between, on the one hand, its strong emphasis on the equal dignity of everyone in the eyes of God, and on the other hand, the existence of a religious elite in the form of the Levi'im in general and the Kohanim, the priests in particular. It seems that the law of the Nazarite was a way of opening up the possibility to someone who wasn't a Kohen, or wasn't a Levi, to acquire a special sanctity, close to, even if not identical with, that of the Kohanim themselves. This, too, is a way of avoiding the damaging resentments that can occur when people find themselves excluded by birth from certain forms of status within the community. So a Nazir was a sort of voluntary, temporary assumption of the role of being a Kohen. And all of this in order to avoid resentment and thus conflict. Now, if this analysis is correct, then a single theme binds the laws and the narrative of this parasha, the theme of making special efforts to preserve or restore peace between people. Peace is easily damaged and very hard to repair. Much of the rest of the book of Bamidbar is a set of variations on the themes of internal dissension and strife within the camp of the Israelites. So Jewish history has been, as a whole, a story of internal conflict. Naso tells us that we have to go the extra mile in bringing peace between husband and wife, between leaders of the community, between lay people who aspire to a more than usual state of sanctity. It is therefore no accident that the priestly blessings end, as do the vast majority of Jewish prayers, with a prayer for shalom, for peace. Peace, said the rabbis, is one of the names of God himself. And the Rambam writes that the whole of Torah was given to make peace in the world. Naso is a series of practical lessons in how to ensure, as far as possible, that everyone feels recognized and respected, and that suspicion is diffused and dissolved. In other words, we have to